music show, it stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's gone, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with lies and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.
I know the truth is hard to swallow, just digest it. Suspected something's going on, chosen just neglected, deflected by some breaking news. Are we just accepted, expected just to fall in line and follow their perspective? Don't question their objectives, but I got a lot of questions. How these kids molested, but nobody's been arrested. Read it in the Testament, these children are protected. So I'm fighting all these terrorists, both foreign and domestic.
Hey, it's Steve, and I have got an incredible offer just for my audience. You know, with societal changes and evolving safety concerns, there is no time like the present to prioritize home protection. Don't leave your home and loved ones vulnerable. Secure your peace of mind with a cutting-edge home security system. My company, Advanced Home Pros, has partnered with Safe Haven, the nation's #1 ADT authorized dealer. They have agreed to give my audience the deal of a lifetime. My audience will get a free ADT smart home system, which has an $850 value, with new monitoring service. Just mention Truth Talk with Steve and get an additional $500 equipment voucher on me to customize the system to your home today. Call 888-520-9212 now or go to homesecuritywithsteve.com. That's 888-520-9212 or jump over to homesecuritywithsteve.com. Terms and conditions apply. Hey folks, welcome back to Truth Talk with Steve. Today I've got a gentleman who I have a lot of respect for. I've just met him, but I've read quite a bit about him on his website. Sean Patrick Tario, it's great to have you here. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
You bet. My pleasure. Thanks for taking the time. Sean is a husband. He's an entrepreneur, a seed stage investor, author, community organizer, and Christ-loving patriot seeking and sharing truth in love, which aligns exactly with what I focus on and try to do. So tell us a little bit about your background, Sean, kind of how you grew up and what got you to the place that you are today.
Sure. So I'll try to keep it brief, but I grew up in the North Shore of Chicago. If you've seen the movie Home Alone and Risky Business, that's basically the neighborhood that I grew up in. And thankfully had a father who forced me to sit down at a young age and watch the VHS series at the time called The Creature from Jekyll Island, which I'm sure you're probably familiar with and your listeners. But if you haven't, it's all about the history of money and banking and the Federal Reserve. And so I learned at 14 really how the sausage is made in the world, and that really the world is run by a criminal mafia that ends justify the means with zero ethos leads to some pretty horrific things. So I've been a conspiracy theorist my whole life since I was about 14. I'm 43 now, married with a couple kids, living in the upstate of South Carolina. But I went from Chicago to Santa Clara University in the Bay Area in '98. So I was there kind of for the end of the heyday. Became an entrepreneur as a sophomore with a handful of buddies. We started a company and really kind of learned how to be an entrepreneur at a very young age, which was very cool and very interesting, and kind of got a taste for that, for better or worse, and was involved with a lot of different companies and startups. But I've always been involved with technology, always been interested in tech. I learned pretty early on that as much as I enjoy coding and whatnot, that there are far better coders out there, and that where my talent is and skill set is taking complex ideas and concepts and translating them for people and individuals. So whether it's taking software developer mindset and helping the financial folks and the executives understand where they're coming from, or vice versa, that's really where I carved out a niche and started working for different software companies and large enterprise data center hosting companies, and learned that business intimately, and taking the skill sets from what I learned early on in my life about following the money, right? Yep. If you follow the money within an organization, whether it's a company or a government or a nonprofit, doesn't matter. Figure out where they're making their money from, who has the ownership of that business, because it's not always the executives. A lot of people say, oh, well, the CEO, the COO. It's not always the executives. They're many times just pawns in the business, right? So if you look at the ownership of the business and figure out what the ethos is of those people, you can really start to learn how it's going to operate as an organization. And so by ethos is what drives them, right? What, for me as a Christian, my drive is I aim to be a saint on this planet, right? So that means that there are certain things I'm going to do or not to do in accordance with that ideology or that theology or that ethos, right? So anyway, long story short, I've been in tech my whole career, my whole life. I put out my own shingle when I was 31 years old and started doing consulting directly with companies. I wrote a book on the data center industry. It's basically Data Centers for Dummies. If you just look up Data Center Colocation Industry Playbook, I've sold thousands of copies, was traveling the world, training people about the industry. So I learned intimately about infrastructure, like where the data lives, right? Most people think of this stuff as magic. They just don't understand how the internet works. It's in the cloud, and people don't even really understand what the cloud is or where the cloud is, but it's all physical servers sitting in physical facilities. And it's really real estate at the end of the day, high-tech commercial real estate. So I became a specialist in that space. And I learned early on that the money that is backing not only the companies, the VC-backed companies coming out of Silicon Valley, but the infrastructure is owned by the same woke capital that owns and dominates every other industry. So whether we're talking big pharma, we're talking healthcare, we're talking the food in our grocery stores, it's the same companies, right? It's Vanguard, it's State Street, it's BlackRock, it's Berkshire Hathaway. It's these same companies. And it's the same ethos, right? You look at these companies, who's running these companies and what their ethos is. So I was putting out the siren early on, trying to warn people, look, conservative content and Christians are going to be taken offline. You're not going to be allowed to exist and have your ethos pushed on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter, anywhere, on LinkedIn, anywhere. You're going to be taken offline. And people said, Tario, you're crazy. There's no way that's going to happen. This is America. We have the First Amendment. And I said, just watch. And I said, well, they legally can't do that. It's unconstitutional. And I had to explain to people, do you even understand our Constitution? Do you realize
talking about?
Right. Do you realize that we're not even remotely close to following our Constitution today? And that the people that we're up against right now do not care. Ends justify the means. They're going to do whatever they can, however they can, to accomplish their mission, which is a depopulation agenda. And I know I don't need to explain this to you and your audience. You guys already get it.
It's so fascinating, because the stuff you're saying is, I mean, now even, I wasn't really that awake till the last 5 years, and if you'd have told me everything that you just said then 6-7 years ago, I would have thought you were crazy, but I'd have thought that doesn't make sense,
Right.
But
like the vast majority of humanity.
No, exactly. Right. Now we're slowly, it's picking up steam, starting to see that everything you just said is 100% truth.
Right. So, I mean, this is literally the battle I've been fighting my whole life, and it's been depressing, very depressing at times.
And lonely.
And very lonely. But now that people are waking up, I've kind of reached a point where I'm no longer in the business of trying to wake people up.
Yeah.
If you have not had that spark of truth and realize, holy smokes, everything I'm seeing around me is a lie, I need to really dig in and start thinking critically about what's happening in this world. If that hasn't happened to you yet, and you're still buying wholesale government media complex, celebrities, then there's nothing I can tell you. There's no documentary I can point you to. There's no article I can point you to that's going to get you to be like, maybe you're right, right?
Yeah.
This is going to have to come from God. God is going to have to work in your life in a very personal, real way to get you to wake up. So my agenda these days, with my background in tech and whatnot, is to help people who are on the front lines of this war get the tools that they need to be successful in this war. So with that, I'm going to ask you a very simple question.
Yep.
We're at war right now, right? With both enemies, foreign, domestic, and spiritual, right?
Yep.
So if we're at war right now, and I gave you a weapon, And I said, just so you know, this weapon that I'm giving you to use has a GPS tracking device on it. It's got a camera and a microphone on it. And all of that data and information is connecting to the other weapons that are on the battlefield. And all of that is being fed to the enemy that you're about to go fight. Would you A, step onto the battlefield knowing that you're going to get smoked, right? Or B, even use that weapon to begin with?
Yeah, talk about putting it into perspective really quick. It's like how
So
soon can
that
I
is
order one of your phones, bro?
that is 100% what is happening here. We are
Exactly.
all
They're
walking
listening to us right
around.
now. Yeah.
We're all walking around using devices that are controlled by big tech, right?
Yep.
Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon. These 4 companies. And then you're using applications on top of that that are constantly aggregating and pulling your data and feeding it into the Borg, what I call the Borg, which is this collective database that exists in hundreds of data centers around the world that knows everything about you. Everything about you.
That's so
This is
crazy.
what literally I'm very passionate about what I'm doing these days, because it drives me crazy that we have so many people on the front lines of this war right now who are either oblivious to this fact, or they're like, oh, well, they're tracking me anyway, so who cares?
Exactly.
I'm like, so if you knew that the weapon you were going to bring onto the battlefield was going to be tracked, would you continue to use that weapon? And the answer is obviously no, right?
Yeah,
So you
likely
try
gonna
to
be the weapon
learn
that
to
will kill you.
yeah, I try to find a new weapon that I could use, right? And people are like, well, what else is there? I'm like, well, this is not that complicated, people. Most people have heard of something called Linux, right?
Yep.
Open source operating system. What does that mean, open source? That means that you have full access to see what's happening with the code that is running that operating system. That's important because what we have is, due to the Patriot Act, we have, for national security reasons, backdoor channels that have been built into Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Intel, NVIDIA. All these different companies have basically sold their soul to the government and our 3-letter agencies for them to even exist and win certain contracts with their government. So this has all been going on for a very long time, right? This isn't like brand new news.
Yep.
And I go back to reading, I read the Patriot Act. I was one of the few lunatics who read the Patriot Act back in the day. And I was telling people, this is horrible. Like this is going to be used against us. And they're like, but no, it's going to be used against the terrorists. And I was like, no, all this does is give justification now to these agencies who have already been doing this undercover. But now they can say, oh, well, nope, now we're justified because it's for national security reasons against the terrorists, right? So we've been living in this paradigm for a very long time. The surveillance state is so real. There's not a single person who, when I ask, hey, when you talk about a product or something, do you not see an ad pop up within 24, 48 hours or sooner? Right? And people are like, oh, yeah.
I've experienced that a ton, but even it's gotten to the point now where, if I swear to God, if I think of something and then I'm going to look it up online, it's finishing. I mean, and it's not just I've typed enough, so it's, giving you the options that it's kind of thinking and finishing that you can select.
Right.
It's only going to the website.
Right.
It's just
so
insane.
Let me blow your mind here.
Let's do it.
The reason that is happening, not every time, but a lot of the time, is this. When I know everything about you, Steve, I know where you go, I know who your friends are, I know every conversation you've ever had, I know everything you're buying, right? Yeah. I know everything about you.
Habits.
I can hack your behavior. We are predictable beings, right? So it's not that, it may be, if you're wearing the Apple earbuds, right, that there's some crazy stuff going on. And on our different social media pages, we are constantly putting out news and leaks about this type of technology tracking and what's going on. But there's literally a patent that was filed on the process of using your earbuds, literally the Apple earbuds, to pick up your brain waves, and not only pick up the brain waves, but push frequencies into your brain.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, it's crazy stuff, right?
Yeah.
So if I know that much about you, and this is we've been build this from a marketing perspective. It's brilliant from a marketing perspective. And this is how data is the new oil, because if I know and can predict, I can push these products in front of you and get you to buy, right? But the dangerous thing is when you can use that same data to start to steer behavior from a social paradigm.
Change everything. Yeah.
Exactly.
What happened? Yeah, it's
So
unbelievable.
let's get to solutions, right? So solutions is open source software, because if I have an open source operating system on my laptop, for example,
Mhm.
I control the laptop now. Nothing else can get installed. There's no malware that can get installed. No program can run in the background unless I give it specific instructions to run on that device. So that's extremely important. And that's the same with the mobile devices. We run an operating system called Graphene OS. It is the most private,
Right.
secure
You know, what is it? OS.
grapheneos.org. If you go to grapheneos.org, most secure, most private, open source operating system, operates in the same capacity. So every application sits in its own sandbox that I download. I could download Facebook. I can download any application, right? It doesn't prevent you from basically shooting yourself in the head. You can
Right.
still shoot yourself in the head if you download Facebook, or if you download a Google app and you give that application free reign access to your device. Then that application is going to take all that data and use that data, right? So
Yep.
you now have the option and the choice, versus just clicking terms of service. Yes, I agree to the terms of service. And then instantly it gets access to everything on your device, and you don't even know what you just gave it access to.
Yeah.
So if you download, a flashlight app that's got some cool strobe feature to it, right? And you see that flashlight app is now asking for access to your contacts, your Wi-Fi, your GPS, and you're like, wait a second, what? Why does it need those things? It doesn't need those things. I don't want this app anymore. You can
Those
uninstall it.
app companies do they have that built in? Like, they're getting a benefit, obviously.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. They all make money off of this. They're selling your data, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Data is more valuable than oil and anything else in this world.
exactly. And one of the things I learned in Silicon Valley when I was there for 16 some odd years is, if I was been an entrepreneur for a long time, you could not go into a VC meeting, venture capital meeting, without having a data story. So no matter what you were building, even if it was a cool widget product, right? If you didn't have some kind of a data story of how you're going to be aggregating your customers' data and pulling your data so that you could then resell that data, you did not get funding. You just didn't get funding. They would basically walk you out and say, come back once you have a data story,
Yeah,
right?
because the data is the value.
Data is the value. Data is the new oil. So this is not a new thing. It's been happening for a long time. People are just now starting to wake up and become aware of it. We need more people becoming aware of this faster,
Yeah, you
and
need
people
out there.
deciding, just like with COVID, whether it was the mask or it was the forced jab or it was what they were doing to the kids in the schools, like that
Yeah.
line in the sand has to be crossed for people, where they finally say, enough is enough. I'm done. I'm not participating in this BS anymore. And I'm going to start looking for alternatives and new solutions and going a different way. Right.
Well, it's such a tough battle. I mean, you need to be out there everywhere, number one, but it's such a tough battle because of how we've been programmed. Because I fight it. I admit it. I'm willing to definitely take the step, no doubt. Is, you're going to lose this and this, and people are so unwilling to give up things that are so harmful because of what society has created. That's why I
Right.
have, even though I hate them, they're evil, I know all that, I have a weird respect for how brilliant their plan has been.
Yeah.
you know,
Hands down.
because
I mean, we're dealing with the
this
Sith, right?
weapon, like you said, itself that was a game changer. That just
Right.
it just flipped the script 100%, and basically we were screwed.
Right.
You know?
And I mean, our DoD, DARPA,
Yeah.
and these companies that collectively make over $1 trillion a year have literally spent trillions of dollars on the smartest people in the world to figure out, how do we make these things the most addictive things possible,
Yeah.
so that even when we're going through the enlightenment period we are now, where people are waking up and they're like, maybe I shouldn't have Apple and Google and Siri and Alexa involved in every single one of my decisions, but I just can't give this up. It's almost like Gollum, right, in Lord of the Rings, where he's diving into the pit of lava to save, he's killing himself in the process of saving the thing that's killing him, right? It's like, for me, it blows my mind, right, that I have to have this conversation over and over again with people. It's literally, to me, it's like talking to someone who can explain to me all the reasons why Pfizer is such a horrible company and how they would never want to give Pfizer a drop of their money. And yet they, in the conversation, say, but I got to go get to my booster appointment, right?
Right.
So I'll see you in a bit, right? Like,
Right.
I know I really shouldn't take the booster, but I got to go, right? I'm like, do you not see the logical disconnect here between what you're saying and what you're doing, right? Or the same person who's like, I hate the fact that I'm being poisoned by my food and all this crap that they put into our food, but I need to go get a bag of Oreos or Doritos or whatever, right?
Still using
It's like,
fluoride toothpaste. The whole, it's crazy.
right, exactly.
Nuts.
So once you know these things, like, you can't unknow these things. You can't unlearn these things. So once you realize this thing is literally designed, this is a psychological warfare tool
Yep.
that is being used to control me, right? This controls me. I'm not controlling it.
Right.
So what does that mean? That means that we're addicted. We are addicts. And we have to treat this problem no different than you would any other addiction. You have to. So first we have to raise our hands and say, I'm an addict. I acknowledge that I'm an addict, and I have to take steps to remove myself from these things that I'm addicted to, right?
Yeah. I just had an epiphany. You just gave me some great insights. I am a recovered addict. I don't say recovering. I was addicted to opiates for 14 years. Talk about it a lot. And, all I want to do is serve humanity. And,
Right.
I used to have a podcast called Life After Addiction Indictment for 3 years. And I stopped that this last year to simply focus here because I felt called that I've got to make this a priority to do what I feel I'm supposed to do. To find truth and expose evil, and to serve humanity, to help individuals. Well, everything you just said, I know inside and out because I went through it. I lived it, and now with what you just said, there's way more addicts to technology and these phones than there was even opiates and is opiates, even though it's a massive problem.
Right.
So I know where I'm going to focus now and start really talking and spreading, basically your message about this stuff and the addiction that we have, because I catch myself getting frustrated, at times when I'm OCD and, I think I have to do everything now. And, if that means I get a text and I'm driving, I'm looking at it. Most of the time I'm going to respond, to where my wife gets pissed. And finally I told her, you know what, every time I do that, I'm gonna give it $20. It's like, I'm gonna swear, I'm gonna fill that jar up with something, because I gotta break this addiction, and because I don't want to be a hypocrite either. I'm gonna start talking about this stuff, but it is a massive, massive problem. Addiction's tough, no matter what type it is.
Right.
And the psychological is so deep inside of us.
It really is. And now
wonderful.
we've got our kids hooked to these things, and
it's scary.
there's lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit that Google and Apple and Microsoft have lost, where they say, we promise, we know we're giving these Chromebooks away to the kids for free, or these MacBooks or these MacBook Pros or these MacBook Airs away to the kids for free, but we promise we're not going to take their data and store their data and use their data. And yet, what do you know? They are, and they do. So they're actually building a profile on your kids at such an early age. And then beyond that, because they control the software and the technology, they're now giving recommendations to your kids when they're writing papers. Well, you might not want to use that word or that phrase because it's offensive to blah, 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 right? It's absolute ridiculous.
Dumbing them down even more,
Yes.
Thick. And it's
just, so I'm on a warpath these days because, so you're a Christian, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So here's the deal, man. As Christians, we are called to be angels and saints on this planet. And I am in scripture on a regular basis, and I'm asking myself, how can I be more like Christ? How can I live my life like the apostles, like the martyrs, right, on this planet? Because that is what we are called to be. Look at the lives of the apostles and the saints. They did not live in kickback, fancy, comfy lives. Abundance lives, right? Not saying they weren't happy and joyful and that some of them didn't have families and weren't great fathers and great, mothers, but they weren't sitting here just trying to say me. I need more. I just want to go relax on the beach and just retire, right? That's not the lives that they lived. They
Right.
were called to be on the front lines of this war right now. That's where they were called to be. And I can tell you straight up, in my life, I have sat down and had to have the conversation with my Lord and Savior where he said, Sean, I told you exactly what I wanted you to be doing right now. Exactly. I've given you the experiences, the gifts, the knowledge to go fight this fight and get on the front lines with this mission right now. So if I see you deviating from this because of, well, Lord, I have a mortgage I have to pay, and I've got kids, and I've got this, and I've got that. All of that comes back to fear that God is not going to take care of me, right?
Yeah.
God is not going to help guide me through this process and take care of my needs, my family's needs, right? All of that stems from that. And that is not the conversation I want to be having when I meet my Lord and Savior. That is not the conversation. When he says, wait a second, you're telling me that you didn't do what you knew I tasked you to do because you were afraid when
Yeah.
you had me on your team, who's the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, that raises the dead, that moves mountains, who's worked in your life, because God has worked miracles in my life numerous times. You already know that I can do all these things. And you're telling me that you can do it. Why exactly? Depart from me. I never knew you, right? I see far too many Christians and pastors who are oblivious to this reality, completely oblivious. And or they'll say, well, Sean, you're so convicted. I just don't have those convictions. I just don't know where God wants me to be, what God wants me to be doing in my life. And I say, well, how often do you spend time with God?
Bingo. Yep.
Reading scripture, in the word, praying, listening, right? Is it only when you have some hard thing in your life that you choose to get up? Because if that's the case, then that's a pretty crappy relationship with anybody, let alone your God, who you claim to be your God and Savior, right? That's not the relationship I would want with anybody, right?
And how do
So
you feel
those
when
who
you do have relationships like that? Because we've all had those too, where
right,
we feel it's one-sided.
right.
So it's not
So this
what.
has to be a two-sided thing. If you want to listen and understand and be able to discern what truly is the voice of God, you have to spend time with that relationship. So
Yep.
there's not a single person I know who spends time in the word and communing with God on a regular basis, trying to live their lives like a saint and like the apostles, who's not on fire right now on the front lines of this work. There's not one. So if you're listening to this and you're saying to yourself, well, I don't know how best to serve, I want to take action, I want to do more than just click, 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 like, reshare, reshare. Spend time in the word and start asking very deliberately and specifically what it is that you can do. We all have different skills. We can all serve in different capacities, but there's far more you can do, I promise you, than just clicking and sharing and being on the computer all day long. I would say get the heck outside, go meet your neighbors, go get to know the people around you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, amen to that. I mean, because that's, we'll get too deep into it because I've talked about it many times in this podcast, but, I was born in the Mormon church. I live right here in Happy Valley, Utah. And I woke up to that 4+ years ago, and that's pretty tough when everyone around you, all your family members are still just totally blinded, have no clue. They think I'm the lost sheep. Thank the good Lord, my family, my wife and kids are pretty aware of what's real. But it's tough. And so I've been on a mission just like you're talking about. And I still, for those listening, I always try to keep it 100% real. And I'm vulnerable. I got nothing to hide. Exactly what you're talking about is what I've been focused on and trying to do. And, I fall short a lot. And a lot of it is because of that stupid thing and the way your mind, at least my mind, but I think it affects a lot of us, we think, oh, it's not that important, or we're doing something else. And this is me speaking for me particularly, if I start doing something before, whether it's listen to something, whether it's business wise or, podcast of any different type that's not focused on spirituality, I'll find myself putting off prayer and meditation. And before you know it, hey man, I got to get going now. I got to start my day and get showered and head to work or whatever. And then you realize a few days passed and you haven't even done it.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to do, but just like you said, I'll challenge everybody listening to make that a priority, because that's what, consistent things every single day, even if it's a little, I'm talking 5 minutes. If you just get in the word 5 minutes, or just meditate 5 minutes, or just pray 5 minutes, whatever, it will compound. It'll create that habit. I can say I'm finally being very consistent, but it's a frustrating deal, just like anything. But that's 100% what it takes. And like you said, if that's who you are, you're that Christian person, now is the time. And like you said,
Yeah.
if you're not on fire about what's going on and your faith, then, you know, something's not right, because
Yeah.
I
If
put
you're
off
not
doing this
getting,
podcast
if
for
you,
a long time because of it. You know, I felt pushed. I knew I was supposed to do it, you know, but fear, you know, or uncertainty was holding me back instead of
yeah.
just jumping in and saying, heck with it, you know. And then I finally just realized that I can't keep saying no. God's trying to tell me something, you know.
Yeah, if you're
It's
not getting pushback in your life right now from either the
no,
world or your family or your friends, then I can guarantee you're not doing something right.
that's for
Like,
sure.
guarantee you're not doing something right.
Yep.
Guarantee you are not actually living your faith if you're not getting pushback right now with what you're doing. Whether it's in your marriage, doesn't matter. I know so many people who are struggling in their marriages right now because the truth is finally starting to bubble up and they're forced to have these very difficult conversations with their spouses. So, the devil is going to try to work every angle to work at you and try to attack you. And key thing is getting you off of your routine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a creature of habit. I've also dealt with addiction in my life and still deal with addiction in my life. And I know if I'm not spending time every day journaling, waking up, spending at least an hour and a half, 2 hours in the Word, and walking through, here's the things that I knew I did yesterday that I could have done better. Here's the
Yeah.
things that I'm grateful and thankful for. Here's the things that I need to accomplish today that are like the top 3 things I need to accomplish today. If I don't do that, I start falling off this cliff and getting deeper and deeper down rabbit holes. But everything we're talking about, so whether it's technology and trying to get yourself off of big tech, of which you can go to mark37.com, we have a ton of tools, and we can introduce you to this huge, massive community, literally tens of millions of people around the world who are doing the same thing right now. This is not like this brand new thing that's like just coming out. Linux has been around for 30 some odd years. It's been developed and made to such a degree that my 70 some odd year old dad, who's computer illiterate, can still use the device and be totally productive and fine, right? So it's come a long way, but it's a journey. My point is this: it's a journey. Whether you're learning to grow your own food, whether you're learning to have a better relationship with God, right? No matter what it is, you have to view it as a journey. You don't, or physical security, right? You don't
Okay.
just walk into a karate studio and say, I've got an hour, make me a black belt, right? That's not how it works. You have to get muscle memory. You have to get used to different moves and understand the philosophy of why and how, and learn the mechanics of your own body and your own limitations. It's the same thing. Whether you're growing your own food, you don't just buy a raised bed and buy some seed and then all of a sudden you're growing your own food and you don't have to go to the grocery store anymore. That's not how it works. It's a journey, it's a process, and you have to view it as such. So we highly recommend that people, and we have these tutorials that you can go through on our site. You get a device, you change the operating system on your device. If you know how to do that and you want to work through that yourself, please do. And then you slowly start using it, getting comfortable with it, and start realizing, this is a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And then you can start, taking your SIM card out of your old phone, putting it in the new phone, or just using the new Linux system that you've got full time, right? So it's a process, it's a journey. It's not something that you just do overnight. We have to relearn how to do certain things. But I like to tell people it's no different than going from driving like a stick shift 86, F-250 to a brand new Mercedes, right?
Right.
It's going to take you time to get used to like, there's no ignition switch. I have to press a button. Well, where is the button? Like, I have no idea. And I've got new screens. I got new too. You get used to it. It takes about a week or two. Some people a lot faster if they're more technically savvy. So those who just try to go cold turkey and they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to go all open source, all things new, like tomorrow, they end up reverting back and getting frustrated and saying, well, this didn't work and that didn't work. And I didn't know where that was. And I can't accomplish this and blah, blah, blah. So we just tell people, look, take your time, go at your own pace, but you have to start somewhere. You have to say that I'm ready. I'm going to do this. I have to do this.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about, what all the options you guys offer as far as, if someone needs a phone, they want everything set up. I mean, what are the different things that you do offer that are available?
Sure. So our primary service is helping people make that migration happen. And we've started out with these ghost phones and ghost laptops because we really couldn't find people who are actually offering these tools and making them accessible to people. And there's a handful of options online, and I go through what those are on the website and walk through how we're a little bit different. I'm a big believer that we do not need to manufacture new phones. There are literally billions with a B of these smart devices in mint condition
Or other
that
scam.
people have, that people have just given back
Yep.
to their carriers or whatever because
Sure.
they wanted the new thing. So I'm a big believer we don't need to be mining for more materials, using slave labor, which is what is used to make these things, giving money to these OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers that manufacture these things, because there's so many of these that already exist, right? I can take a 2015 MacBook, I can take a 2015 HP Dell, and I can make it run 10 times faster by getting the Mac OS and the Windows OS off of that device because there's so much spyware, bloatware, and just crap in that code that doesn't need to be there. When you put open source software and Linux, flavors of Linux on the device, it runs screaming fast. So you don't need a brand new device. So that's the first thing is all the stuff that we do is refurbished mint condition. So you're going to hear of there's some new products that are coming out in the market right now, but they're closed source, which again, not a big fan of closed source for obvious reasons. And they're using brand new equipment, which again, that's buying into this planned obsolescence economy where you need to have the new thing, right? Totally unnecessary. So they're mint condition, refurbished devices that run the software. But my core business is helping people with that migration. So if you're like, I get it, Sean, I want to migrate. I need a new phone. I need a new laptop. I want to migrate my email. I want to migrate my files. I want to migrate all this stuff. We'll set up time with you. We'll do about a half hour to hour long consultation with you, figure out exactly how to get you from point A to point B, and coach you through that process. Or you just go to the tools that we have online and you can go through that process yourself and walk through that process yourself. And once you're ready, then we point you to the tools. What are the browsers that I should use? The VPN I should use? What's the Office 365 alternative? What's the Zoom alternative? What are these alternatives that I can be using that are not owned by companies that are trying or individuals that are trying to kill me right now?
Yeah.
So it's a step-by-step process for us as a business because as we're doing this with more and more people, we have business owners that say, well, heck, I've just converted my personal life. Can't I convert my business and my employees over too? And we say, you definitely can. So for me, I spent a career, funny enough, migrating people into the cloud.
Yeah.
And now I'm spending a career migrating people out of the cloud, right?
That's preparing you, obviously.
Yep.
Brilliant. Are there any type of devices that you can convert?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Unfortunately, your iPhones are un-iPhoneable. Apple has completely tied their software to their hardware, and you can't basically un-Apple an iPhone, and you can't load open source code or open source operating system onto your iPhone. So unfortunately, that just becomes target practice, or sell it on eBay, sell it online. You'll get some money for it if it's a newer phone.
For those that choose to migrate and switch, that say they have iPhones, family, in-laws, all that have iPhones, is there any functionalities that lose as far as just your basic texting, things like that, if they were to migrate, but others don't?
So the short answer is there's a little bit in that it's mostly cosmetic, right? It's mostly like, I kid you not. I have a friend of mine who's in his early 20s, and he was very reluctant to stop using his iPhone for text messaging with his friends because it would show up in the thread that his messages were not coming from an iPhone. And he was concerned that his friends would ostracize him for no longer being part of the the Apple universe. And I was like,
I
bro,
get that, but isn't that sad that that's where we're at? I mean, that's
I know. I was like,
crazy.
it's so sad. It's so
Yeah,
very
so
sad.
man.
So there's that, right? There's that little thing. But most of them are
Still
tiny
works
little
fine, right?
trade-offs. Sorry, say that again.
I say, but it still works. It's just something silly like that. Yeah.
Correct. Right. So there's little things like that will be a different experience for you. But there are other companies that offer Office 365 alternatives, right? So there's a company called LibreOffice. And I would encourage everybody go to LibreOffice.org, LibreOffice.org. download this software. It is free open source software. It's been around for 10 plus years. It is literally the Microsoft Office alternative. And just like what I was saying before, you don't just instantly cut over and start using it. I had to play with it for about 2 weeks to figure out where the certain buttons were to do what I needed to do in a Word document or a spreadsheet or a PowerPoint. They're all there. They just may be in a different place. Okay. But you can do everything that you need to do. I can open Excel files in that document. I can save what I created as an Excel file to send it to somebody. And then there's other collaboration tools that you can use that are out there. So you can have multiple people sharing, working on the same document at the same time, which is key for most business owners, right? Yeah. So you can do all these things. You're just going to be using different technologies and different tools.
Well, again,
so
it's just getting familiar to the different look and feel, but everything's there. It's just a matter of getting used to it, which is a big thing that holds a lot of people back from change.
It really is. People don't like change, right?
Yeah.
So
it comes down to that choice.
It hasn't become abundantly clear. My main message these days is you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah. Have to, right? Yep. Because the reason why we're in the times that we're in right now is because we've become too comfortable being comfortable, right? And we've allowed too many people make decisions for us and not paying attention to what's really going on, which has led us to exactly what's going on today.
100%. They've made it a convenience ease society, which has gotten us lazy. So we stop thinking, for ourselves. And what about as far as you migrate, then what's the situation look like as far as the provider, and billing and things like that?
So you keep your carrier. So they're carrier agnostic, telecom agnostic. And this goes back to the analogy I was making with physical security. So I can become, a Krav Maga martial arts master. I can become a 3-gun specialist. I can have turret gunners sitting outside my house and be in a bunker somewhere, right? But if someone really wants to kill me, they're going to find me and they're going to kill me, right? With enough means and motive, there's nothing I can really do. They're going to find me. They're going to kill me. The same thing happens with technology and applies with technology. I can take every precaution necessary, but if someone truly wants to get into my business from a technology perspective, they're going to find a way with enough means and motive, right? So what you really have to understand is, what is my threat tolerance, right? What is my risk tolerance? If you're my dad, who really only spends time, talking to his grandkids and doing some research online, he's a different profile than someone like me, who's got the message that I've got, offering the services that I have, traveling the world and traveling the country right now, trying to share and spread this message. I have a different profile than someone like my dad does, right? So with that understanding, we kind of coach people and direct them towards whatever the tools are that they need to be successful doing what they're trying to do, right? So to that end, for example, people have to just learn the basics, right? I want to teach the basics, right? Let's not have the equivalent of your doors open at night with a big neon sign that says, we don't know how to defend ourselves and we have tons of assets in the house. Please rob us, right? Yeah. That is the equivalent of what most people are doing right now, walking around with their devices. You don't know it because it's not as visceral and real as that, right? But this is what's happening digitally. You are blowing your digital head off and those around you all day, every day by using these devices. And I'm not, making this up. That is exactly what's happening. These are psychological warfare weapons and tools that have been weaponized against you, and you're oblivious to the fact that that's what's happening. So that's what's happening. So once I understand where someone's coming from, I can direct them down the right path. From a carrier perspective, that means you can go to a brick and mortar store of a carrier, and if they have the ability for you to prepay for a plan, most often they won't ask you, and you can say, I don't want to provide you my name. I don't want to provide you my address, my email. You can get a phone number on a carrier with the new phone number without giving them any identifiable information, right? Yeah, pretty cool. Awesome. And then you can download different applications on your device that work somewhat like a VPN, so that every time you make a call out, it's going through a different tower somewhere. So that people don't really know where that call is coming from. Like, that's full burner mode, right? That's people who truly want to be completely off the grid. It takes some time to set up. It costs a little bit of money to make that happen, but it's possible, right? Yeah. Does that mean everybody should rush out and go do that? Probably not, right? However, that is available for people. So that's where I'm trying to get people to understand digital security and privacy is no different than physical privacy and security. You just have to understand what is my risk tolerance and really how much money do I want to spend and how much time do I want to spend on this. But we have too many people because of the convenience mindset. Well, I just want to buy this product. And if I just buy this product, it'll make me safe, right? So I'm very wary of any tool that's coming out there that says this will solve all your problems. Just buy this thing, plug it in, and you're good to go. Like, sorry, bro. That's just not how digital security works, right?
Crazy. All right, I got two last questions. So if I were to make a switch personally and then for my business and stuff, if I've got a lot of salespeople around the world and, we use a ton of Google Docs for stuff. Is there a way, so how would you advise me, number one, in that situation? And then the second question is, I'm going to practice what I preach and believe in. So I'm going to make the switch on my phone, my computer, and if you're open to it, and I'll pay for whatever I decide how to do it, what you normally charge, but I'd like to document as much as possible.
Amen. Please
put it out here to share and show people what it's like and that it works and that it'll change the game. Because how crazy is it that we care about like you just said, securing our homes and, having alarm systems and things, but yet I know this stuff and I've known nothing you've said is new to me, but I've just kind of let it go in an ear and out the other and taken it for granted. Like, frankly, not really conscious, but I know this is really it is everybody's doing it. What are we going to do? It's not that big of a deal because they can get it if they want it, but somebody like you, they might put the time and effort and money to try to hack things. Someone like me and the average citizen, they're not going to do that most likely,
Yeah.
So it's important. So I want to do that. And, we can have a conversation after we're done recording. So you can kind of advise me where to get started. I've been on your website and stuff, and I'd love to do that and document it.
Here's what I recommend, because you're not unique, right? A lot of people are coming to me and they're saying, where do I start? Right. Yeah. Start with either the phone or the laptop.
Okay.
Personally, right?
I'll start with the phone. Okay.
Get comfortable with it, get used to using it, jump on our forum, walk through the Q&A, try to figure out how this stuff is going on. It sounds like you're relatively technical. You'll probably pick up on this really quickly and you'll just start to get it, right?
Yeah.
Most of our customers these days are boomers. And it's both shocking and not shocking that we get some people who are like, I just can't get this thing to turn on. And I'm like, well, did you not? Like, we literally told you and showed you where the power button is. All you have to do is press the power button. They're like, oh, okay. Oh, now I see it. And I'm like, patience.
Exactly.
So get the phone, start playing with it, start using it. Feed the questions either into me or into our forum. We've got a great community on Telegram that I highly recommend joining. We have so many people who are just chiming in, asking great questions and providing feedback and their journey.
Is it Mark 37?
Mark 37. And we're on Truth Social. We're on Rumble. We're on Telegram. We're on Twitter. And we're on one more, Gab. Those are the different communities that we're on. So that's where I would start there, right? Because then you'll have the experience and you'll say, okay, I get this. Now I want to throw my laptop and convert my laptop. And then once you've got that environment going, you can say, okay, now I want to keep growing, right? So we have different services. We have a Ghost Life service where I would say, okay, we're going to spend some time together. I'm going to get to know you. I'm going to make some recommendations and we're going to get your whole life migrated for you. We have a Ghost Home service where I could do that not just for you, but your spouse and your kids and your whole house, your home network and firewall and router and smart TVs. Guess what, folks? Your smart TV has a camera and a microphone on it. And if you have one of those in your bedroom, you probably shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Stuff that's like, for me, I'm like, this is so obvious, and yet so many people are oblivious to the fact that these things are.
That whole Internet of Things is the biggest scam thing to connect everything. So,
everything.
Your fridges, your smart everythings are basically spying. That's what it's all about.
And you're giving it access. You give it access. With everything you bought wants access to your Wi-Fi. You have to start asking yourself, why? Why?
We
Oh,
got
well,
to,
for software updates. It's like,
yeah.
why can't this thing just work, right? Why does it need a software update to work? It's not really needing the software update for your home Wi-Fi access. It's because it's downloading your data and selling your data. No different than your cars. Your cars are doing the same thing.
This is
Again,
one of
everything
the
has a
most
data
important
plan.
things of
They're
this
all
war we're
monetizing your
fighting,
data.
man. This is one of the most important things that we got to focus on in this war. I mean, this is
I
crazy.
agree, man. I don't know if
Dude,
you're military. I'm not military because I
I was
realized
born
I
on a
didn't want to be.
military base, actually,
Yeah.
but
I did not. I learned very early on that wars are rackets and that they're all bankers'
yeah,
wars. So I didn't want to go fight those wars. But I've been in a different kind of war, right? But I do know for a fact that comms, communications, is
yep,
paramount in warfare. And
yep.
I believe a big reason why we're getting screwed in this war right now is because we are openly giving all of our comms to the enemy all day, every day. And not like they're being super technologically crazy about how they figured out how to do this. We're just giving it to them. We're like shipping it wholesale,
Yeah,
saying,
what I'm asking.
please have my comms. Right.
Well, that's a whole nother topic that I think most people listening to my show know this, but if you don't know this, you need to look into it because you need to research who created Facebook really and your YouTubes and all your social platforms and see who is behind it really because it's DARPA. If you don't believe me, go dig in and
100%.
research. And that should tell you everything you need to know right there. Once you can prove that to yourself, you will know Sean is telling 100% truth. You should already know that because, yeah, there's no way they could have accomplished what they've accomplished, especially just in the last decade without these devices,
Yeah.
It's crazy. So yeah, so dude, I want to make the moves. I'm going to document the crap out of it and I'll just do updates and I'd love to have you back one or two times, to go into some of the stuff.
Yeah.
And, because let's be real, I'm committed to do it, but it's not going to be easy. I know that because I prefer the iPhone operating system over the Android or any of the others big time.
Yeah.
But it's important to me. So I'm willing, and that's what we have to ask ourselves. What is it that we're willing to do to live the things that we believe and
Right.
to provide, whatever resources we have to help get to where we need to go to help win this war.
100%. So that's the hard conversation, right? Because this
Wait,
is a hard conversation. You have to decide, is the convenience worth more so than my privacy and my security, right? Is the marginal convenience worth more than my privacy and security? Is it worth me spending a couple hours of my time and my day to figure out how to relearn and how to reuse a tool versus knowing that I'm wholesale giving them full access to my stuff, right?
The answer is easy, but they've made it hard because they've created beliefs that we know are bullshit. Excuse my language. That's just crazy,
Yes.
Dude, this has been a great podcast. So, man, I really appreciate your time, what you're doing, and we have got to get this message out. I actually just got invited to be on one of my shows each week is going on the Grassroots Warrior Network on Rumble. It's a fairly new channel, a couple months, but it's kind of like the gentleman behind it is named Kevin Hoyt, and he has been fighting the fight big time in Vermont and taking down government and sheriff. It's crazy the things he's exposed, but he thought, we've got to be able to get more people exposed to more different people, shows and narratives and personalities because we all resonate differently, but then we can also cross promote in a way, so he calls it's like the Chamber of Commerce. So the last 2 weeks is the first 2 weeks my show's been on there. But this episode will definitely be on there next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. And so I'll talk to him and several others and start pushing this out because, man, this is important. It's really important stuff. And we got to stop taking things for granted. If we're in a fight and we believe in the things that we truly believe in, then we got to stand up, even when, like you said, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Especially when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's frankly when growth happens and positive things happen. If we want God to intervene and do his part, which I know he will do if we do our part.
Right.
And I think too many people in this movement just think, whether it's the military or God, they're coming to save us. I've said for 2 years, no one is coming to save us but
Ain't
us.
nobody coming to save us but us, man. I totally agree. Hands down.
God will do what he needs to do to make sure we get to where we're going to win. Because God's not going to lose. But, he's not going to baby us and eggs either.
Exactly. We got to repent and we have to actually take action.
That's what this is all about, man. We have just pushed God out of country, out of schools, out of everything. And
Yeah.
we've just sat here while we're being put to sleep, been okay with it. I mean, that is embarrassing now, to be honest. It's pathetic.
Yeah.
So, well, cool.
Well,
Do you have any final words, Sean?
No, I would just say check out the site, mark37.com. There's so many other great resources and websites I could point you to, but I don't have all day. So I would check out that website.
Well,
Go to our resources page.
One step at a time.
Yeah, go to our resources page, go to our blog page. I have a handful of articles. I have a lot of people that come at me that say, well, I've been in, military intelligence for blah, blah, blah. And, there's these back doors and there's this and that. So there's no point. So I wrote a whole article that addresses every single one of these concerns that come at us. The gist of it is like what they're really saying is, well, there's no point in you even trying to grow your own food or raise your own cattle or whatever, because they can still, drop chemtrails over the sky to kill everything off. Or, they can poison your water that you're going to be using to feed your chickens and kill your chickens. It's like, yes, that is true, but that's not going to stop me from wanting to be a homesteader, right? I'm not going to just not do it and give up and say, oh, I can't do anything about it, right? So we have to take action. We have to start taking these steps.
And that kind of attitude is what will get you killed, because you've just basically given up,
Yes. Yeah.
So military should be ashamed because they know better than that,
Yeah.
That's sad.
But we could probably talk for hours. I mean, obviously I love talking about this stuff.
Same here.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. And like I said, I'll jump on the website and take the first step, and we'll keep documenting, and I'll keep reporting on how it's going. And, I'll be honest, and it'll be, like I say, it'll be uncomfortable. I'll probably be frustrated at times, but that's what it's going to take. That's what I'm willing to do. So
Amen.
Thanks again, brother. Appreciate you. And we'll be in touch.
Right back at you. Bless you. Thank you.
Got it. Take care.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow, towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. This is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work.
The new MyPillow towels are exclusively made with 100% USA combed cotton with proprietary technology and with maximum absorbency. They dry you faster and are guaranteed to work.
I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow. And to thank you for all your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. Go to MyPillow.com to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. For example, you get my dog beds for as low as $19.99. Or for a limited time, you can get my 6-piece towel sets, regularly $109.99, now only $39.99. The lowest price ever with your promo code.